Hi guys, today we'll talk about Soviet flankers we have in DCS, and we will look at the new flankers. Like flanker versions that we can fly today have all essential elements already present in DCS to put them to the good use and for the air-to-air combat experience. And those flankers that I'm talking about are J-11B and J-15. They're the same airframes as SU-27 and SU-33, with Russian-designed and Chinese-produced PL-12 missiles. Uh, yeah, they have Chinese domestic onboard electronics, plus air-to-ground capabilities of SU-25T, some of which, by the way, like air-to-ground KH-31P missiles, are perfectly functional, like on the SU-27 and 33 for the SEAD and anti-ship strikes. All this working in with IC protected servers, integrity check is intact and without any need for any mods whatsoever. And when you connect to the server, like, and when you occupy the flanker slot, you will have completely different experience flying flankers with the capable missiles on them. But what about like onboard electronics? There is no way, obviously, to have a glass cockpit like the latest versions of J-11B and J-15 in the near future, at least. But there is a way for us to try and mock up much more effective data link on transitional variants of those Chinese domestically developed new flanker prototypes. And that's what has been done to get a little bit closer to having one. This is J-11B Aggressor Dark Edit of English Grayskin that Devrim has developed. Thanks to Devrim and the guys that were helping him for this great cockpit skins. It allowed us to have like English cockpits for the flankers in DCS to begin with, really. And this Aggressor skin brings us a bit closer to J-11 Bravo, an attempt made to provide like visual upgrade utilizing the same superposition approaches that took place before it. So let's see what all those markings mean. Ideally, pilot has to get like needed info in an instant at a first glance on the data link, and this layout helps to get pretty close to having this ability. It became possible due to the couple of interesting facts about its design. The main one being that the lower and upper parts of those T-shapes have the same length at a certain speed and altitude. And you can see the text at the top of the data link for the three different cases where those contacts T-shapes have same length for the upper and lower parts. First one is for 15 kilometers altitude and 1500 kilometers per hour speed. Second one is for 10 and 1000 respectively, and the third for 5 kilometers altitude and 500 kilometers per hour speed. And having those control measures, we can easier and faster interpolate between them for all other occasions that would occur between those three cases, and even outside their overall scope. In addition to this, we have honeycomb grid in the background that has three hexagons within each other that are representing same three upper and lower sizes of reference T-shapes. And in the upper right corner you can see the few combined shapes of upper parts of those T-shapes for reference of their positions on top of this grid, and it's looking like an antenna, as well as the lower parts of those T-shapes on top of the grid too, with each size matching its respective hexagon. Also between 5th and 6th range rings we have those upper and lower parts placed there for the further reference, and thus helping us to improve our ability to better interpret the picture we will see on the data link, like those on the left and right side, and come up with actual numbers in our mind for each contact we will see on the data link. It lets us make better sense of it any given time we will look at the screen. And some of you may have noticed already that if the speed line for the contact is matching the distance between range rings, then it means that this contact speed is 1500 kilometers per hour. And same goes for the altitude, upper part of that T-shape. If it will match the distance between range rings, then it means, yeah, that the guy is 15 kilometers high. And those range rings themselves are dashed and consist of those same three sizes that match our reference cases. And the angle lines for the outer angle that indicates gimbal limits, and the narrower one are dashed too in a similar fashion. Uh, Thus, we have mapped the data link to help us to get more precise guesstimations about the contacts of interest, and to do it much more precise, really. A couple of things to note about some discrepancies you will still have when we'll compare HUD range for the locked target with the numbers you had in mind looking at the data link for the same contact. First one is that the bigger difference in altitude you and your locked target will have, the bigger difference there is between HUD and data link readings. Because image of the data link is an orthographic top-down projection of the area around you, and the range between you and your target on the data link will not respect the fact that your altitude may be different. HUD, on the other hand, will show you direct line of range like between you and the locked bandit, which will become diagonal in a sense, like compared to the top-down projection, and thus longer compared to the range that you will observe on the data link screen. And closer the target is, the more prominent this difference will become. Second one, due to the fact that those range rings, all the dashes and all the markings are not pixel perfect, really, because it's not possible to nail them down like pixel perfect because of the amount of the texels like assigned to this data link on a texture atlas is really tiny to get like more precise results. I mean, if it was like 1K or 2K texture for the data link alone, then it would be much more precise, and the error margin that after your like quick estimations would get even smaller than that. Nevertheless, I mean, compared to the naked data link, the improvements will be, I don't know, tenfold maybe in speed and precision, and the error margin will become, in the speed it will be maybe from 1, if you're good at it, I mean, after some time using it, like 100 to 200 kilometers per hour. That would be your biggest error. And for the altitude, it will be like 1 kilometer, maybe 2 kilometers. The error margin would get for the altitude, and for the range, as you can see, it will be much easier to see the range between you and all the contacts on your data link. So it helps a lot to improve your situational awareness compared to the default one. It's a night and day difference, and the combined effect of like all those markings, man. Once you will use it, you will never want to use the default one again, ever. But there is still room left for improvements, and apart from further refinements of existing markings for this data link, a few more things are planned to be added to this skin that will further improve its practical use. And all said above is also true for J-15 Aggressor Dark Skin, which is released as a replacement of its earlier version that did not have this data link, and always had this annoying blue-colored IRST in front of the cockpit, regardless of what color it had on the external skin. And so now it is repainted to match the dark color of the cockpit. So to demonstrate how this thing works, so the first guy here uh, he's 80 kilometers away, because we have 20 in the bracket and it's a fourth ring and he's right on top of it, and that chevron is like the middle of the contact. So he's 80 kilometers away. He's altitude like 3,000 meters, and his speed would be like 1,250. And for the second guy, the same altitude, speed a little bit more, like I don't know, 1,300 kilometers per hour speed and 3,000 meters altitude. And range, he's like behind the fifth ring, and he's not even between fifth and sixth, so that would be like 104 kilometers, something like that. So that's how you'd make those calculations. When you look at the DataLink screen, you see the contacts, and that's how you like deduct quickly. So to summarize, we have better missiles now. We have better DataLink. But where can we fly those flankers? We can fly them on the little server named Exercise Red Flag. It's a PvE and the PvP server. It is integrity check compliant. There are waves of ace level bots flying for both sides, with reds on the north and blue on the south side of the Caucasus Ridge, with a custom messaging system that renames SU-27 to J-11B and SU-33 to J-15. And once you connect to this IC protected server, and if you occupy a flanker slot, you will have it armed with PL-12 missiles, and you can fly and test them out and see how they would perform against those F-teens. And if you're one of those bored blue aces, when you fly for blue side, you'll finally have a worthy adversary to fight and train against, and test if your set of skills would hold up against this new breed of flankers. And server name Exercise Red Flag talks for itself for many of you. It was chosen for this server mainly because of the highly intense nature of its real life inspiration and its philosophy to train with all Red Force equipment they can get their hands on. But unfortunately for them, they don't have a staple of Russian and Chinese made latest jet fighters to train with, so they have no other choice but to use F-15s and F-16s as mock-ups for flankers and MiGs. But we in DCS have that opportunity to train against latest Sino-Russian flankers. Guys at Nellis could only dream about such luxury. And yeah, links to the cockpit and external skins are listed in the description below. Subscribe and stay up to date with the further developments and new stuff that will be added next. Cheers, see you guys.